I also wanted to touch on clearances, because clearances becomes an issue that often has to get fixed in post. Clearances could be anything from a poster on a wall to a music situation. And Brad, I wanted to know if you could share the parody story.
What story?
The parody.
The parodies. Oh, sure. On Happy-ish, which was a very fun show on Showtime this last year, we were sort of skewering a lot of big, iconic commercial things that took place in the advertising industry. And there was an episode where the female lead was dealing with her depression. She decided that she was going to go on antidepressants. And there was this whole Frozen theme that went through the whole episode. She was ranting about Frozen. And so finally, for the final number, we did this parody fantasy for Let It Go, you know, when she's on the hillside and going to the castle and she creates all this magic thing, although the number was called Lexapro. And so it was all about the magic of going on this antidepressant, and pills came out of her hands and flung around and put her in a gown and transformed a castle. We filmed at Ohiga Castle. It was great, but in order to prepare for this day, we had to create a version of Let It Go that we knew we could get away with Disney. And so we, you know, it's almost mathematical as far as how different the melody has to be. But then, you know, we were working very closely with an attorney through all of this who was very strict. And it wasn't just that the melody had to be just different enough, but the lyrics also had to be the right type of parody. You couldn't just abscond with this concept and then put whatever words. It had to more deliberately parody the song that it was based on. So we actually had the writer on the show created a whole different set of lyrics when we found that didn't work. And then, of course, this all had to be done in time for us to rehearse and pre-record with the actress and then get there on the day for playback and make sure everything was going. And we were watching very carefully. And all of a sudden, I'm noticing on this very close shot with her, we're very tight on her face. The creator of the show thought he could just get away with doing her once that sounded just like the melody. And I was with, you know, my sound people, and they were looking at me, and I was like, hold on one second. And then I ran down to the piece of the set, and I just went up to the director and I said, listen, you just have to do at least one where she just says that line the way that we had planned. And he was like, really? Sure? And I was like, yeah, please. And so it was like, okay, we're going one more time. And then we did it. And she did that way. And thankfully we had that because, of course, that's the version we had to use for the final. So it was really having to pay attention because, like Tim says, later it's going to be your problem if you don't have that thing that you have to use that the lawyer says you need to have.
I worked on a film where a lead actress ad-libbed a song, 3 lines of a song, in every take of the scene, and nobody said anything, and it was in the middle of the scene, and we couldn't cut around it, and that cost 10 grand just because she ad-libbed 2 or 3 wildly singing. So music, you really need to pay attention to music clearance and not assume it'll be cleared later. Spoken lyrics are still a problem, and everything must be cleared in advance.
Spoken lyrics and dialogue are something that the writers are often just not aware. It's like, no, you can't just quote that much of it. You know, that's going to be a publishing that we're going to have to pay for. Get an alt, you know.
Peter, do you want to talk about Little Miss Sunshine, the music?
Oh, Little Miss Sunshine was, you know, all the talk about planning ahead. That movie, there's in the climax of the movie, the little girl played by Abigail Breslin, Olive, dances in a beauty contest to a song that nobody expected her to dance to, and we planned it. She practiced for weeks doing the choreography, and we filmed it to a song by ZZ Top called "Give Me All Your Lovin'." And as we were cutting the movie and working with it, you know, when we got to that climax moment of the movie, that song just wasn't quite working. It just didn't have the right feel and the right energy for it. And so we started playing around. You know, it's like, well, is that going to work to replace it? We started playing around with different songs, and ultimately we completely changed the song and did it all in editorial. So she ends up, dancing to Super Freak, which I will always say is the best $80,000 I ever spent, was licensing that song. But if you look at it, if you look at the movie closely, we were able to cut her dance pretty well to a completely different song. Although thankfully most rock and pop is all 4/4 rhythm, so it's easier. But if you look at it pretty closely, whenever we cut to the audience, the people in the back who are clapping are completely off